Okay. Hello, everybody, and welcome to KPIC's bi-weekly immigration update. My name is Chris Willis, and I'm joined here today by my sister, Louise Willis, and we're going to go through what's been happening as it relates to Canadian immigration in the last couple of weeks. In terms of background, I've been a practitioner, Canadian immigration practitioner for over 25 years now. I was certainly involved with KPIC right when it was formed, serving on both the provincial and national boards. And I've been an RCIC now, both federally and in Quebec. And right now I'm also doing a lot of work with different citizenship by investment programs around the world as well. So it works as a great complement to existing Canadian practices. So I'm going to hand over to Louise. She's going to give you a bit of a background of herself and her journey as it relates to being a practitioner for Canadian work.
Hi, everyone. My name's Louise Willis. I've been in RCIC for numerous years now. I'm also licensed for the province of Quebec. Okay, and I've been with KPIC obviously for a number of years as well, and I've sat on the Quebec Board of Directors for a total of about 8 years. I think I've been a member since about 2008. So I'm the Director of Canadian Visa Specialists located here in Montreal, Quebec. And so we're going to, I guess, get started. Chris, I'll let you moderate a little bit and go into what we're going to be talking about today.
Okay, very good. So Louise, I know you do a lot of express entry applications, and I understand there were some interesting draws last week. Can you tell me a little bit more about what happened?
Sure. I mean, you know, express entry has really been challenging, I guess, for the past few months. And last week we did have another all-program draw. So what that meant is that the draw happened for applications that were federal skilled worker, Canadian experience class, and provincial nominees, okay? And then on top of that, we also had a separate federal skilled trades draw, which is pretty interesting. The reason that is that the federal skilled trades draw was actually the first time there's been a draw in that category specifically since October 2019. And I mean, last week's draw, it was 415 points, okay, which is actually pretty high for federal skilled trades. Considering the last draw back in October was 357 point threshold. So last week there was 250 invitations to apply that were issued for federal skilled trades. Okay, going back also to the all program draw. So since March, this is only the second all program draw that has happened. The last one was back on July 8th. So this draw, it was, so this was on August 5th, it was at 476 points, so still pretty high, which was expected, to be honest, because obviously there's a big backlog of federal skilled worker applications in there. 3,900 invitations to apply were issued. Okay, so, you know, hopefully we're going to get back now into at least one all program draw a month. You know, we would hope it's going to be at least twice a month, but right now it seems that IRCC are going at least one all program draw, which is great news for the federal skilled worker applicants.
Okay, wonderful. And obviously with applicants coming from all over the world, what's happening now with the visa application centers, the VACs?
Well, you know, I mean, it's really hard, right? The pandemic is hitting everyone, you know, obviously all over the world. And so what's happened is that a lot of the VACs, the visa application centers, were shut down because they were not accepting any in-person visits, any appointments or anything like that, which of course then had a huge knock-on effect, right? Because people can't come in to do their biometrics, etc. Well, the good news is that they are starting to reopen. However, you know, it is very much case by case, country by country, city by city. So applicants, they still need to make sure they double check with the VAC beforehand to make sure they are open. And clearly they're going to have to make an appointment to do their biometrics, but they do have to make sure that, you know, these are available because they're not still available everywhere. You know, for example, I had a client last week, they needed to go to the VAC in Auckland in New Zealand, and they were only open, you know, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, for example, as opposed to the usual Monday to Friday. So it's really important to double check the opening hours for your VAC.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you know, the impact of the COVID pandemic has impacted processing, not just for Canadian immigration, but for all aspects. And it's such a good example of things like, you know, using a facility like a VAC to do it. Are there any other specific delays that you'd want to mention as well?
Well, I mean, going back to, the VACs too, is one thing I did mention is, of course, the appointments for biometrics. These are still, as, everybody knows by now, is that anybody who's doing an in Canada application, so work permit extension, etc. in Canada, Immigration Canada have actually waived the requirements for biometrics in Canada. Okay, the reason being is that, of course, Service Canada centers are still not taking appointments to do the biometrics. So these are currently being waived. Okay, they are still required for permanent residency applications or for applications outside of Canada. However, there remains the recognition that these are not always possible. So applications are not being denied because of the lack of biometrics. They're just simply keeping them open. And the usual 30-day requirement is still set at 90 days. It's being automatically extended.
Well, and I think that's a big part of it as well, is that as you said, they're not being refused. It's just the wheel is turning very slowly, which is again frustrating for many people, but at least people will know that at least they'll get to it eventually. Let's hope so, as things start to open up. Yeah. And so with the paper applications, you were talking about spousal, for example.
Yeah, I mean,
tell me a little bit more about what's happening there.
Well, some of the other delays, I mean, obviously there's still delays everywhere. But the one that we're seeing we're hearing a lot about today, specifically in the media, is spousal applications, okay? Because these are paper applications. And so the paper applications, they need to be processed by a person in an office. And the processing centers are down to minimal staff. And so what that means is that the paper applications are really quite severely delayed in processing. This is a big issue specifically too with those who are in Canada spousal applications and they wish to apply for a spousal open work permit. Now, it was, of course, confirmed that the program is being extended. Okay, so spouses are still able to apply for the open work permit. But of course, when it's taking months upon months for the applications to be opened and processed and file numbers issued, well, that then has a knock-on effect with the open work permits being issued. So there was a stakeholder meeting, and KPIC discussed it last week with all its members and confirmed that, there's a suggestion from IRCC that applicants that are in the queue waiting for their paper application to be processed could actually also now submit an online work permit application as well in Canada. Okay, and with this, they won't have a file number yet, but they can submit proof of the submission. So, clearly, if somebody submitted a paper application, it will be delivered by courier or by Canada Post. And so they will have a tracking number confirming delivery of the application. And so include that as part of the work permit application. They may have to pay the fees twice, but, if it gets them a work permit, then to me, that's that's a fair deal. So that's a suggestion that came out last week, and it's certainly something that I will be referring to people. Okay. Okay. Also, with regards to paper applications, I mean, temporary applications, because there were some that were submitted as hard copies. So these, I mean, as of today, I have heard of an application that has been finalized that was actually submitted back in December. So I guess they are literally just starting to process those, because up until very recently, immigration were still confirming that processing had not started on them.
So Louise, tell me about what's happening with the booking of testing centers for language tests and for educational credentials assessments. Are we finding that there's also delays there as well?
For sure. I mean, the good news is that the centers are reopening, okay? But as with everything else, there's a big backlog. So people really do need to get booked onto the tests ASAP. Whether it's the French test or the English test, they need to get booked, their IELTS, their CELPIP, scheduled as soon as possible, okay? There's some people now already, they still have a 2-month delay before they can even take the test. So they really need to get onto that. And the same with the ECAs, the educational credential assessments. I mean, they're all backlogged. So if somebody is even considering express entry, they need to get their credentials assessed right away.
Okay, so I guess the important information to counsel your clients is, expect some delays, but don't wait too long because the backlog's just going to get bigger. So important again when you're talking about timelines, yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, immigration are, there's no exemptions, okay? There's no exemptions for the language tests or for the ECAs. So for the number of people, because people do ask, well, are they going to exempt it for now because it's something that's out of our hands, out of our control? The answer is no, okay? They do still need to provide these documents just to be able to create a profile.
Okay, no, that's fine, that's clear. And obviously immigration is always a hot topic in the media. Any points you'd like to discuss of what you've heard about in the last couple of weeks?
Well, I mean, spousal and border closures is always a hot topic. There was numerous stories about couples being separated at the border, etc., couples who can't see each other. There was one really interesting one, which I don't think has been covered in one of the previous biweekly updates, but it was with regards to a couple whereby they decided they would get married by proxy. So i.e. marriage by FaceTime, who knew? But the American was in Kansas, where apparently proxy weddings are legal. But in Immigration Canada does not recognize proxy marriages, okay? So this is not something that should be recommended. It's not going to help a spousal application at all. Okay,
yeah,
so
I mean, as you say, as you say, it still reverts to the laws of Canada, not the laws of Kansas, right? So that's what we have to remember.
Exactly. So, just bear in mind for anybody else who wanted to do it. Marriage by FaceTime.
Now, it's been a bit quiet in Quebec since the immigration minister was replaced in June, and there were some changes to the Quebec experience class. Anything else you want to report from La Belle Province?
Not really. I mean, honestly, Quebec immigration is just frustrating right now. I mean, we're happy. Well, I'll speak for myself, I guess. I shouldn't say we. I was happy that Nadine Giraud became our new immigration minister and replaced Simon Jolin Barrette, otherwise known as SJB. She did make some amendments to some of the drastic changes that he had made, which is better. But honestly, the wait times are still so ridiculous, because we're not talking just getting the CSQ, then you have to go into the federal system, and that's now 2 years about. So, you're still talking about 2.5 years after having met the requirements for Quebec. It's really long, it's really tedious, to be honest, and I don't know if I should say this, but I tend to tell people, listen, look for another province, and I'm a Montrealer, I'm from Quebec, but Quebec is a challenge right now. It is a challenge.
Yeah, and it comes back to being honest with a client, in terms of what's their best interest. And sometimes, even though it's a program you may like, it might not be in the best interest of the client. So we've got to make sure that we're always looking at them.
I mean, yeah. So yeah, I definitely don't. I definitely don't just focus on Quebec. That's for sure.
Yeah. Okay. And obviously all these changes going on. I mean, how do you communicate a lot of these changes to your clients? In terms of whether it's points marks, whether it's draws, whether it's new immigration ministers, how do you tend to convey this to your clients?
I mean, it's it's the same with your company, Chris. What do we use? We use social media. It's often the way that we have to use, because these changes are constant. Everything is evolving, on provincial level, on the federal level. So for me personally, we put it out on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. We do monthly newsletters with all of the COVID updates. It's really important, though, that, we do stick to the sources of information being the government. So whether it's, IRCC or CBSA, but that we do clearly identify the sources, because there's a lot of fake information going around. So, you do need to make sure that the information that goes out is tailored, obviously, to your clientele, but also that, is able to allow everyone to be kept up to date as much as possible. So that's pretty much how we do it.
Well, and that's it, that's where, why we're licensed and why people are coming to us, because we have the facts, not just what's sort of being rumored out there, because, we've both seen over the years we've been doing this, there's often a lot of misinformation, friends telling friends, and then it turns out not to be true. So,
yeah, and, and there's rumors, and, there's always going to be, the regulations, but then somebody's heard of, well, somebody did something that didn't, goes against what immigration said. which is always going to happen. But at the end of the day, you know, we have to give out the advice as per immigration, and that's what I'll always stick to.
Okay, good. Well, I think we've covered a lot of stuff there, and you know, two points, I guess, before we wrap it up. The first one, obviously, is to make sure everybody watching here, you subscribe to the YouTube channel, you know, to KPIC's YouTube channel, and you know, finally, you know, we know that today the playoffs are beginning. We're two proud Montrealers. We're going to definitely be rooting for the Habs, so go Habs go. And to our colleagues in Vancouver and Calgary, good luck to the Canucks and to the Flames. And you know, unfortunately for my colleagues in Edmonton, Winnipeg, Ottawa, and have to say it, especially Toronto, another year of disappointment, I'm afraid. So better luck next year, and go Habs go. Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everyone.